Well, good evening. Welcome to St. John in the Wilderness Church for our Between the Trees program. We really appreciate you tuning in tonight, and we have an awesome guest today. One of my favorite people of all times, Avis Watkins.
Oh, thank you.
Avis, when I first came to St. John's, I said I would be happy to meet with anybody who would like to. And I had a sign-up sheet for people who wanted to have coffee with me. And Avis invited me over and prepared a whole breakfast for me. And you were one of the very first people that I really met at St. John's.
Glad to do it.
And it was lovely.
It was. Yeah. It was nice.
So welcome. You're here because there were requests out in Cyber World, St. John's Cyber World, because they thought you would be fantastic to hear your story. And in particular, what they were interested in is the part of your story that you've said probably a million years, but us Americans find super interesting. Anything English, Americans find very interesting. So, if you can tell me just sort of your childhood and then the English part of that.
Okay, well, I'll try to keep it brief. The important thing is that my mother was English and my father American. My mother was the oldest of 7 children. I was very close to her family. But nevertheless, she married an American whom she met in London.
Was your mom from was she an Episcopalian or Anglican?
She was definitely an Anglican.
Anglican in England,
yes,
yeah,
right.
The Church of England, okay.
Right,
yeah.
And that is where I was baptized.
Okay.
And my father needed to come back because of a death in the family, and I was born in New York City.
Okay.
And so then...
So he was over there working.
Uh-huh.
He met your mom, and then they decided to stay there.
They did for a while. They were planning for me actually to be born there, but it didn't turn out that way.
Oh, and so they came back here, and
right.
You were born in New York. Okay.
Right. And that was after the Great Depression, or rather the stock market crash, I guess. And so I think my father found himself back in this country without a job. And as I said, he was putting the sound in movie theaters in England. But anyway, so I did get back to England with my mother for the baptism at 6 months or something like that. And then we came back. And then they sent me over again by myself when I was 4 years old. So it kind of shows how much my mother wanted me to be connected with her family over there.
And every time you would go back to England, you would stay with your grandparents?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And were they in London? Where were they in England?
They were, I think it's about 50 miles northwest of London, and it was between Oxford and Reading.
Okay.
And it was a very nice area to be, and they lived in a small village of Crowmarsh.
Okay.
And we were close to across the river from Wallingford,
okay.
which had a castle and all sorts of interesting stories about who was in the castle and who plundered the church. And the church that I was, where I was baptized, kind of went back to 12th century, or there was even talk that it was built near a leper colony. And so it had a lot of very interesting...
Over there, the churches are a lot older than they are here. Most of them. Yeah, so we think this is kind of an old church here at St. John's, but it's nothing compared to England.
But it looks a lot. The church where I was baptized looks a lot like this one.
Okay.
It's smaller.
So you were over there when you were baptized at 6 months, and you went back over when you were just 4 for a little while.
Just for a visit.
Okay, just for a visit. Came back again.
Yeah. Then my parents...
Is this by boat? How would you go back and forth?
Yeah, this was on board ship.
Okay, wow.
And that part was nice.
Do you remember that? The boat trip?
Not too well. Not when I was
not
4
when you're
years old.
4. Right.
But the kind of important one was in 1939, and my parents had just bought land, and they wanted to build a house, and I think...
Here, not in England.
In America.
In America, right.
And my family had not met my sister yet, because she was born in 36. So she was going on 3. So my mother took the 2 of us over, and my mother was working and just had 3 weeks vacation, so she had to come back and left us there to come back with a nanny or somebody. And we had passage back, reservations, for the end of September. Well, then the war started, beginning of September, and my grandparents didn't want to let us go. So we stayed. I think they thought things were going to be over quickly. I don't know why, but we stayed.
So this is September of 1939.
Right.
And
That's
then
when the war
was declared.
started.
You're stuck there.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Away from your parents.
Right.
Yeehaw! You get sort of, except you were only 8. Is that right?
I was 8 and my sister was 3.
Okay, yeah.
And I think about my grandparents, because they had raised 7 children. And here they get stuck with 2 more.
Wow.
So they were very, very wonderful grandparents, and I never ever had the feeling that we were too much for them.
Yeah.
For which I'm very, very thankful.
So you were there for how long?
8 years.
So from the time why so long? Because the war lasted.
The war was over in 45, but I was studying for the exam, end of school exam,
Okay.
and so we stayed until 47. But my mother she flew, came by plane in 46.
Okay.
And so.
And then you just stayed in with your grandparents, all of you?
Right.
Okay.
She just stayed for a visit because she was still working at that time.
So 8 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember when you were 15 years old and living there, did you consider yourself American or English?
Well, that was difficult. When I was 8 and had to go to school, the worst part was the math at school, because the English money, it was before they had the decimal system.
Oh, yeah.
And so there were 4 farthings to a penny, and 2 halfpennies to a penny, and 12 shillings to a pound, and then the guinea was 21 shillings. And
yeah.
So I do remember that being a problem.
A guinea, a shilling. What
21
else?
shillings.
What
That's
else?
kind of the professional
Okay.
charge, or
Okay.
was.
And then when you're 16, everybody came back here. And then you had to figure out how to be an American.
That's right.
How'd that go?
Well, my mother, I guess, decided I should go to the local college. And so I did get a scholarship for that, and went for 2 years. And this is in Pennsylvania now.
Right.
And met Nat in between those 2 years, because I worked at Gulf Oil in Philadelphia during the summers. And so I was interested in science at that time. And so anyway, after the second year at college, both Nat and I figured that was enough. So then it wasn't too long before we had one and then two children. We had one first and then twins. And Nat had a call from 3M, and so we left my parents that we hadn't seen too much of and came out to Minnesota.
Okay, from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So the kids, your oldest child was how old when you got here?
Let's see, that was 54, so she would have been 3.
Okay.
And the twins were 2.
Wow, 3 and 2 2-year-olds.
Yeah, I think it was 3.5 and 2.5, something like that.
Yeah, welcome to Minnesota.
Yeah.
All bundled up in big coats, and that was, I remember having kids and bundling them up in the big jackets, and they looked like marshmallows walking down or Halloween costumes.
Well, that's when we came, actually, was Halloween. We came to Minnesota on Halloween night, and we stayed at a motel in St. Paul, Lakes and Pines, on what was Hudson Road. This is before 94 now.
Okay.
And I remember the kids had sore throats the whole week. But we got better. And
did they go trick-or-treating that first year?
not that first night.
Yeah. You were just doing the best you could just to handle it.
But the tumbleweed was still rolling in the roads then. There was
wow.
It was interesting.
So White Bear Lake, and that was in the what? When was that? Like in the 50s? Yeah, mid 50s.
Yeah, we lived actually in Maplewood.
Okay.
Actually, before it was called Maplewood, and then we came to White Bear in around 1966.
Okay. It's 1966.
Yeah.
And then is that when you switched to St. John's in 1966?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you were at another parish before here, but 1966. So Avis, that's over 50 years. That's like 54 years you've been at St. John in the Wilderness. That's a long time. I've been here too. So you
it's changed a lot.
Yeah, I bet it has. So you've been through many priests, and so what was it like back then, and raising kids up at St. John's? And
well, we had 3 more children after coming to Minnesota, and our youngest was in 1966 when we came to he was baptized. This is Tom at St. John's.
Okay.
And what I remember...
Where was the baptismal font in 1966?
Oh,
do you remember where he was baptized?
I think it was in the back.
Okay. Because it's moved around.
Yeah.
Now it's right here in front, but it's been in the back.
It was in the back,
okay.
I'm pretty sure.
It's in the back, okay.
Yeah. But what I remember back then was ECW, I mean Episcopal Church Women.
Right.
And I remember that was very busy, very strong. We had a Christmas bazaar that was really a big deal. And we had very interesting Lenten programs. And it was a very strong organization and very good to be a part of.
The other night I was cooking and had the St. John's cookbook. Do you have the St. John's cookbook?
Yes.
And I was cooking a recipe. It was some sort of casserole, some Greek casserole from the 1960s, or it may have been the 1966 Christmas bazaar.
Oh,
or
yes.
something like that.
Yes, Janet Kelber and her sister Joanne.
Yeah.
We're very active with all that.
So, yeah, okay, so ECW was big, and then you're raising up the kids. There were probably, back then, I think a lot of the parishes were just packed full of kids.
Right.
Yeah, and St. John's probably was as well. Yeah.
I remember the Christmas services, and I often wonder how we did it, because we would be here, especially when Nat and I were in the choir, singing at 10:30, and then the service would start at 11, and we'd get back home about 12:30 after midnight, and we probably still had preparations for Christmas. And
Yep, I remember those.
but those
days.
were wonderful times.
Yeah. Did you? So the kids didn't come to the midnight mass?
Well, because we had 3 older ones and 3 younger ones, we sort of had built-in babysitters, which was good.
That is nice.
But it kind of depended as they got older. You know.
See, so there's been conversation here at the church about whether to bring back the midnight service. And everybody wants to go to sleep. I mean, I want to go to sleep too, you know, at a reasonable hour. But there was something magical back then about being in the church when it late at night and candles, and you're kind of falling asleep, but it's magical. And I don't know. It was, even as a kid, it felt really magical to me. I'm wondering, did your kids, like, do you remember them? You were probably just wanting them not to go crazy.
I just agree with you. It was a special time. But on the other hand, I must say, as I'm older,
You're not coming.
I'm not ready.
That's fair enough, Avis.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah. All right. And then one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, because there are a lot of people who are probably tuning in that are super connected to our parish. And that's the way every church I've been to, that's our lives of faith revolve around our parish community. But the church is a lot larger than that, of course. And the Anglican Communion is much, much larger. It's like one of the biggest communions in the world. It's just not so big in the United States. But you've made an effort to reach out and actually get to know the church a little bit, the larger church a little bit more. I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed learning more about ECMN, and I've enjoyed my opportunity as a lay delegate to attend convention, both in person and online. The last one, of course, was online a year ago, and I'm very happy to see Bishop Loya present his topics each Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and anyone can log in to it. They just need to get the information. I'm sure I think Megan does put it every week.
Right. Yeah.
How to access the Tuesday at 2 o'clock.
What sort of topics?
It's very broad, and we do get to talk with, or get to hear people from other states, and I just can't remember names now, but it just is very interesting how people in even limited circumstances can bring a wonderful message. I think, I'm trying to think whether it was Michigan, and I wish I could remember it better. But it has been interesting to hear people from all over Minnesota also. Some with quite limited opportunities, doing great things.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very, very hopeful and enlightening.
It is. And, you know, Minnesota, I'm new to the diocese here at ECMN, and but there's over 100 congregations, and most of those are in rural areas. I mean, Minnesota, besides the Twin Cities,
Yeah.
you have Duluth and the Twin Cities and, you know, Mankato, some, but for the most part, it's a pretty rural state, and there are all these little groups of folks that are praying together and serving together. And you're right. I think it's remarkable what people do, what people of faith do with what they have, with what God gives them. They do amazing things.
Right. And in the cities also, in other words, I hear we were talking about sacred ground, and it just is wonderful what the Native American population is, First Nation, or let's see, what is it? The opportunity for a lunch.
Carrie, what is that? The lunch. First Nations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's right here in the city too. There's really interesting, vibrant ministries going on.
And then information. This is what comes on Tuesdays. Also, is the historical aspect of Faribault and Bishop Whipple and everything that happened back in those days.
Right.
And then now there's just a lot going on in the cities.
Yeah. What's been so during COVID, everybody has different experiences. We were just talking about the Acero family who was here. They did Between the Trees as well. And so for children, you know, of various ages, or the Carpenters, same thing, their experience of the last year probably has been very different than yours. How's it been going for you?
Well, I've kind of felt very good, actually, being able to access the church online, because I remember last year I had a cold that kind of persisted a long time, and there were a couple of times that I actually drove to the parking lot, and I sat there and I thought, you know, I really wish I could get this service online or on the radio, because I don't think I should be going into the church.
Yeah.
And this is before COVID.
Right.
So sometimes I sit at home and I listen to the church service, and I feel quite smug about the whole thing.
Well, I want to give you a golden star because, Avis, you have jumped in, you've learned how to do you go to Bible studies, and you're in worship, and you do a lot of things online, and you're like the poster child of if you're older, you can learn this stuff. You just have to give it a try.
Well, I shouldn't take too much praise for it, because I think my family kind of fixed me up with a good computer that I fell into, I think, and so I think it was there. It was just kind of a matter of me persisting.
Yeah,
and I'm very thankful for that.
And families are awesome when you've got nice kids that will teach you how to do stuff. My kids are like, figuring out, Dad, you'll figure it out eventually, but
mine are older, remember?
Oh yeah, I can hardly wait to have older children. No, but I mean, it's great to have somebody show you how to do it, and also, I mean, we're doing so much right now. I mean, that's online, that we're happy to actually help people through that. So we have a staff that would be happy if somebody wants to access things and they're having trouble, if they can connect with us, we're happy to help them out. And I experience that almost on a daily basis, where I can't figure something out, and Either I'll ask Maureen or Megan or Carrie or somebody who helps me through.
As long as I stay with desktop, I'm okay, but I still haven't really learned my tablet.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things, and we're right now we're using small cameras, but before Holy Week, hopefully we're going to have a much larger system that will be able to do this a lot easier and better.
I think it's a great idea.
So then, right, so even when we come back after COVID, if somebody feels like they shouldn't go to church for whatever reason, or can't go to church, or the weather's bad, they can still access the church and be part of the community.
Right.
You hate for people to miss out. Yeah. So, okay, so I could go on and on, and I would, except it's time for the Wonder Stick to come in. And here it goes. Wonder Stick's making me reach for it tonight. Okay. So, this is a great question. This is going to be a hard one, though, for you. What's your favorite memory of being in church with your kids?
Yeah. Well, I can remember sometimes when it wasn't a favorite. Isn't that funny how that comes quicker than...
Yes.
I think it was, there were definitely sort of feelings of, I don't know whether it's a mixture of pride, let's say, and just kind of thankfulness to have come to Sunday, after maybe a really difficult week.
Yeah, right.
And it was just kind of a wonderful kind of thankfulness and gratitude, I think.
Yeah.
That
Did the
we
kids
were
ever
there.
want to come to church?
Pardon?
Did your kids ever want to come to church? Or did you have to twist their arm? Or bribe them? We used to bribe. That works
I
pretty
don't
well.
remember that it was ever particularly an issue. I think back then maybe it was more like that. It was just kind of expected.
Right.
I mean, as they got older and of course moved away, then all of my children do attend church. One, let's say, is a little less, but the grandchildren, I think, is a different situation.
Yeah, it's a different age. Yeah.
But I think, and they do go to other churches, let's say, and we have had a little bit of polarization, let's say, in our family. And
Right.
I've been listening to Braver Angels to become more aware of how to be less polarized myself.
Yeah, that's good.
So it kind of has to start there.
Yeah.
And
I know. It's funny, Avis, the longer... So, I mean, of course, we claim everybody, all the other Christian traditions as brothers and sisters in Christ. Of course, we just say that, but the more I'm an Episcopalian, the more I really love this flavor of Christianity. It just suits me. It doesn't suit everybody. It's not right for everybody, but it sure is for me and for a lot of folks, I guess.
I think the time in England had something to do with where I am, but I think the combination of reason as well as faith.
Yeah.
Somehow I need that.
Yeah. Right.
And I think America. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say American culture is this or that because English culture has changed from what I knew.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a different emotion now. connected with faith in some.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So if you, of course, there's an England question. If you could go back to one place in Great Britain, where would you go?
Well, I have gone back several times.
Do you still have family?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I have cousins, and I was
lots
back
of cousins, I bet.
2 years ago to have a wonderful visit. And what was interesting, and I have pictures of it, but when I was a scared little kid of 8 or 9, and the war was on, and I, was missing my parents and missing this country, I would get into the hedge that was between our house, or my grandparents' house in England, and the church, or the cemetery. And this is a tall hedge. It must have been maybe 6 feet high, but I was able to get into it. I don't know what it was made of, but anyway, I felt like my little sanctuary.
Oh, wow.
And I would sort of sing, "Holy, holy, holy Lord God Almighty," in this hedge. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I think kids like to find a place that's kind of their little hideout or whatever.
Have you been back to the hedge?
I have a picture of it.
You do?
But no, I didn't go back to the hedge when I was there.
So while all the other children were scattering to the bomb shelters when the planes were flying over, you went to the hedge.
Well, the shelter we had bales of straw over it. And I've always looked back and thought, my goodness, we would have been cooked in there, if it, anyway.
So do you remember that? You remember going to the bomb shelter?
Yeah, I remember the gas masks, and I forgot mine one day, and they sent me home from school to get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy. Okay, but you'd go back to the hedge.
I was only thinking about that recently, that why didn't I go and look at the hedge?
Oh, that's so neat, though. Of all the places in the Great Britain, not Big Ben, not Buckingham Palace, you'd go to the hedge.
Well, I have seen those places, and
yeah. I like your style, Avis. Okay, I'm trying to read Jeff's handwriting. Okay, so I noticed that Avis has the presiding bishop's book in your lap. Do you want to show that, Avis?
By all means.
So our presiding bishop, Michael Curry. And why do you have that book in your lap?
I just bought it from the Cathedral Bookshop.
Okay.
And it is our book choice. Cindy Kallstrom chose this for our book club, Wilderness Wonders. And I'm looking forward to reading this.
I've read it. You want me to tell you all about it?
Yeah.
I won't spoil it for you. No, I think he's a super engaging preacher, of course, Michael Curry. If you have, of course, probably heard him preach.
Yeah.
And, but I think his writing style is really engaging as well. So it's a hopeful book, perfect for our time. So it was a good choice for Wilderness Wonders.
Well, especially for Valentine's Day coming up and the meaning of love. So.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we did the plug for the Cathedral Bookstore.
Thank you.
And for Bishop Curry and Wilderness Wonders. Wow, you checked off all the boxes. Okay, and we only have a few minutes left. Okay, what are the biggest changes in White Bear Lake that you've noticed? Not just St. John's, but our city.
Well, we moved to Arden Hills at the end of the 80s. And so I haven't seen as you know, I haven't been connected, let's say, with as much change that happened in the 90s, well, let's say for 30 years, because essentially I've been away from White Bear, but coming to church, and we have family that live near White Bear, and certainly very much a part of the lake in the summertime.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Exactly.
What high school did your kids go to?
Oh, they the twins, David and Janice, were, I think, part of the last White Bear class that was not divided yet.
Oh, so they were up on, what are they, north or south?
That would be north.
They were at north, okay.
And then the one in the south, and I don't know how I can forget, but anyway, it seems to me, I remember that, and then Mariner, excuse me.
Oh, the Mariners, yeah.
Then we lived on South Shore Boulevard, so they went to Mariner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when we first moved to South Shore Boulevard, they were going to the North Campus.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a big change right there.
Right.
But not so much in since we moved, of course. That was back in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't go to high school in Arden Hills?
No.
Okay, so they were still here.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were kind of going to college at that, or the younger ones were. Yeah. But White Bear, yeah, it's. Oh, of course, the senior residence that was built where the boat works. We remember the boat works very well.
Okay.
And of course, we remember the grocery store before the one that's right there now.
Kowalski's?
The Kowalski's, yeah.
Yeah. It was another grocery store?
Yeah, it was a different one. I'm trying to think whether it was Red Owl or Piggly Wiggly or just
okay. But it was the local grocery store.
That's actually how I got the dog that we had. Someone had left puppies, a mother and puppies, but one had somehow gotten on the median just in front of Kowalski's. And I stopped the car because I had to pick up this puppy and took it home and kept it.
You're such a good person.
Well, it was.
I guess you have to stop for a puppy.
Oh, there was no question. I mean, I don't know how it got there by itself, but there were 3 other puppies and the mother dog that somebody had found and brought up to the grocery store.
Okay.
Whichever it was, I can't remember.
Right.
But one of the neighborhood boys was there, and they had to call the police and take it to the. But I kept this one little puppy.
Oh. What'd you name him?
Well, actually Molly, and it was.
Oh, it's a girl.
It was a black and tan dog that was very strong. And I can remember taking it to dog obedience and flunking dog obedience.
Oh, like none of us have ever flunked dog obedience class.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. You had a dog who's black and tan and strong. Molly, I like that. Well, Avis, we are out of time. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. It's been really fun.
Enjoyed it.
It's weird probably for you to be back in the church.
I was telling Carrie that it makes me want to cry somehow. I just felt quite tearful walking around.
I know,
yeah.
I know. Well, we'll get back here. Yeah, patience. We'll be smart but patient.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for joining us, everybody out there. Hope you enjoyed it. I don't know how you could not have enjoyed it. And But don't forget about the Bible study. It's starting in about 5 minutes.
Oh.
Our Wednesday Bible study, which is a study, a walk through the book of Acts. And Mark Sears is our teacher. And so that's a different link than this one. And but you can find it on our website. So thanks a lot. Oh, and next week, we're going to have Jim Peterson, who is here. And many of you know Jim Peterson. And one of the things that Jim's going to be talking about is the Heritage Society and how much that does for St. John's. So hopefully you'll be able to tune in for that as well. So thanks again to Avis, to all of you, Carrie and Jeff, of course, and we'll see you next time. God bless.